The NHL is a violent sport, but when it gets to sucker punching or baseball swinging another player, punishment is due. Here are the biggest suspensions in NHL history. Maurice Richard, 15 games. While there have been several 15-game penalties, this is by far the most well-known, or most infamous. Maurice Richard of the Canadiens was fighting Hal Laycoe of the Bruins in reprisal for Laycoe hitting Richard in the head with a stick. While Cliff Thompson was attempting to detain Richard, the Rocket turned and punched him out cold. Richard was suspended for the remainder of the regular season and thus missed out on the scoring title. He also missed all 12 postseason games as the Habs were defeated in 7 games by Detroit. This act also served as the impetus for the infamous Richard riot. Eddie Shaw, 16 games. Eddie Shaw's sucker punch on Toronto Maple Leafs player Ace Bailey ended his career due to a cracked skull, as terrible as any other incident on this list. Shaw struck Bailey down from behind on the evening of December 13, 1933, with Bailey's head hitting the ice. The hit was apparently in reprisal for Bailey's assault on Bruins player Red Horner. In any case, the behavior was reckless, and it's surprising Shaw only received 16 games for ruining a player's career. Matt Cooke, 16 games. At one point, hits like this made Matt Cooke the league's most despised player. Because of the liberties Cooke would take with opposition players' heads, the rulebook had to redefine a headshot. He elbowed Rangers defenseman Ryan McDonough in this case. Cooke's elbow was as purposeful as an elbow could be, sticking sideways to catch McDonough's head. Cooke wasn't so much after the puck as he was after McDonough. Cooke was suspended for the rest of the regular season and the majority of the Penguins' first-round series against Tampa Bay. Tom Lysiak, Brad May, Steve Downey, Todd Bertuzzi, 20 games. We'll put Todd Bertuzzi's sucker punch on Steve Moore ahead of the rest of the 20-game bunch since it deserved to be longer. Bertuzzi lost a total of 20 NHL games as a result of the incident, which occurred during the 2004 lockout. Bertuzzi was also barred from participating in any IHF leagues since they honor NHL suspensions. Following the end of the lockout, the league reinstated Bertuzzi. In 1983, Tom Lysiak was penalized for 20 games for intentionally tripping NHL linesman Ron Foyt. Brad May slashed Steve Hines in the nose. Steve Downey launched himself behind the net at Dean McAmmond. Dale Hunter, 21 games. Despite being known for piling up penalty minutes, this hit has cast a shadow on an otherwise promising career. Hunter would demonstrate one of the worst displays of unsportsmanlike behavior in NHL history during Game 6 of the first round of the 1993 playoffs between the Washington Capitals and the New York Islanders. Islander Pierre Turgeon would steal Hunter's puck in the Capitals' zone and score all by himself to put New York up 5-3 in the third. Hunter, the Caps' leading scorer in the series with 7 goals, became enraged and took his rage out on a jubilant Turgeon, knocking him into the boards without warning. Turgeon was injured on the play and suffered a concussion and a separated shoulder, and he would not return until Game 7 of the next series against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Hunter received a 21-game sentence after this hit was used as an example by new NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman to help reduce injuries caused by illegal hits. Raffi Torres, 21 games. This hit would have been hailed if it had occurred during the wild days of the 1980s. However, in today's considerably safer NHL, this hit was ruled very illegal and hazardous, earning Phoenix Coyotes winger Raffi Torres a 25-game penalty that was ultimately reduced to 21. Torres laid a strong hit on veteran Marian Hossa after the latter handed the puck off at center ice on April 17, 2012, during the third game of the first round of the playoffs between the Coyotes and the Chicago Blackhawks. Hossa was knocked out and laid on the ice for several minutes before being loaded onto a cart and transported to a local hospital. There was no penalty called on the play, but it was later reviewed, and it was evident that Torres had left the ice to make the hit, with Hossa's head being the main point of contact. It was a hazardous strike, and more vicious plays must be avoided. Brendan Shanahan, the NHL's head cop, announced a 25-game punishment. His punishment was reduced to 21 games 76 days after the hit. It is said the NHL administration gave him a break when they found out he was subscribed to our channel, but we can't be 100% sure. Gordie Dwyer, 23 games. On September 19, 2000, Dwyer battled Capitals players Joe Murphy and Joe Ricci in an exhibition game between the Lightning and the Washington Capitals. Once in the penalty box, Dwyer would return to the ice illegally in order to fight Riki again. Despite the fact that no one was hurt, Dwyer was given 3 game misconducts, each worth a 10-game penalty. 2 of those infractions were for verbally insulting the referees. Dwyer had to push his way past the officials twice in order to approach Riki. He also lost over $40,000 in wages. Jesse Boulerice, 25 games. On October 10, 2007, with the Philadelphia Flyers leading the Vancouver Canucks 8-2, Jesse Boulerice provided reason to continue the tradition of dubbing the team from the city of brotherly love the Broad Street Bullies. Boulerice caught Ryan Kesler off guard as he rounded out from behind the net with a cross-check to the face, knocking the blue chipper to the ice. The two had been arguing throughout the game, and it appeared as if Boulerice was seeking to start a brawl, but all he got was a 25-game penalty. Kesler would return the next game after suffering merely a swollen jaw and lip, as well as facial bruising. Chris Simon, 25 games. Chris Simon's 7th suspension from the New York Islanders was as harsh as they get, and he'd pay a high price for it. On March 11, 2007, with less than 7 minutes remaining in the third period of a game between the Islanders and the New York Rangers, Simon's infamous rage would show its ugly head. With the action deep in the Islanders' zone, Ranger Ryan Holweg delivered a heavy hit in the corner to Simon. Simon took offense and slashed Holweg in the face with both hands on his stick as he was turning the corner out of the zone. Simon received a 25-game penalty for his behavior. Chris Simon, 30 games. Simon, reoccurring offender on December 15, 2007. Chris Simon of the New York Islanders was suspended for 30 games for an intentional attempt to harm Jarkko Ruutu of the Pittsburgh Penguins. During a brief scuffle between Tim Jackman and Ruutu near the team's benches during a pause in play, Simon yanked Ruutu's right skate from under him with his own, causing the Penguin player to fall to his knees. Simon then stomped on Ruutu's right ankle before skating off the ice for a line change. Simon was given a match penalty for attempting to injure and was expelled from the game at the time of the incident. Simon was suspended for the 8th time in his NHL career. Slava Voinov, 80 games. Voinov was arrested on allegations of domestic violence on October 20, 2014, and has since been suspended by the NHL with pay for the foreseeable future. He is also not permitted to train with the Los Angeles Kings. According to court documents, Voinov's wife, Marta Varlamova, had a laceration over her left eye that required 8 stitches, was shoved into a flat-screen TV, sustained strangling marks on her neck, and was kicked and pushed many times. Alexander Perezhogin, 89 games. While this was an AHL game, the act was too heinous to leave out. Alexander Perezhogin of the Hamilton Bulldogs received an 89-game suspension, 5 remaining playoff games, 80 regular season games, and 4 playoff games the following year. Perezhogin was suspended for the whole 2004-2005 season for slashing, or more accurately, baseball swinging Garrett Stafford in the face with his stick. Billy Kutu, suspended forever. On April 13, 1927, after losing the Stanley Cup final to the Ottawa Senators in 4 games, Billy Kutu of the Boston Bruins chased referee Jerry Laflamme off the rink, attacked him, and threatened his linesman. According to sources, the former Montreal Canadiens captain was acting on the orders of Bruins head coach Art Ross. Kutu, on the other hand, was suspended from the NHL and fined $100 for his acts. Kutu would go on to play in the lesser leagues, but he would never play professionally again. 5 years later, at the request of Canadiens head coach Leo Dandurand, his suspension was revoked. The restrictions, though, would be removed a year after he retired. If you made it here, I suggest you click the video on the screen to watch the worst injuries in NHL history.